It's like 5:34. We're gonna go get started. Hopefully Eloise can join us in a little bit, or we'll find out. This open session public meetings are subject to being recorded, Amy. Your image and voice will be recorded. Per the open meeting law of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20E, you and I are now on camera.
Excellent.
So, we haven't spoken in a while. Oh, there she is.
April.
Woo!
April was our last.
What's up? Just
Good
a reminder,
afternoon.
you're being recorded.
Oh,
Good afternoon.
greetings.
Meeting minutes. I feel like we haven't done them in a while.
April.
April? You have April?
I have April because
Okay.
I think that was the one that Eloise came later.
Yeah.
I think it was the night that we did the
Yeah.
select board
Yeah,
meeting.
yeah. So,
So
Anyway.
I've got I totally forgot until I just reached for this and went, oh,
okay.
hey, look.
So we'll get those squared away.
Second.
All those in favor say
Hi.
Aye.
All right.
Minutes of what date?
That was April.
April 1st.
April 1st.
April Fools.
That's right. All right. So moving on from minutes. Green Community Grant proposal. Everything that I have heard is that it has been successfully put in. It was accepted. There have been multiple questions and answer sessions that have gone back between Kelly and the reviewer and Charlie from
CMRCP?
well, CMRPC was involved. Charlie from
Guardian.
Guardian. Thank you. Gosh, this getting old stuff is not for the faint of heart.
Sorry.
So Guardian, they went back and forth. They had some questions about some of the numbers, some of the payback, but largely that has been handled. So we're just in a waiting period right now.
So what would we be applying for?
So what we're applying for, what actually went in, is the building management system for this building, as well as enhancing insulation around the perimeter of the roof here.
Okay.
And some additional work, and they broke that into a couple of pieces. We're very, very close to the cap for one funding round, so we're just a little over 200. We're over $200,000. So between the BMS and the insulation
Insulation around the roof at town offices?
here, yes, municipal office building. Yep.
Well, I have to understand what I'm,
Which, yes, that is
Right.
it. So it's what we talked about. They did find a gap between kind of like the wall and the roof, and they're going to go through, seal that up, add a little bit of R value to that, and go from there. So it's a pretty straightforward. The building management system is one of the first steps to getting this to be a more comfortable building, because the one that we're using right now is 18 years old, so it's overdue for replacement.
building management
System.
system replacement?
Yep. Yep. And that does a lot of the schedule work, control work, and sets the stage.
What Greg did?
Yeah, a lot of what Greg did. Exactly. Back then. So that'll be good. If it works out, great. I mean, those are very worthy projects. If it doesn't work out, we've already got kind of, hi June.
Is it okay to lock the door? Okay,
Yeah, I got my keys.
I just thought of that.
I actually got the right keys too. So
Awesome. So the school has put out an electrification project where they've worked with a couple of different vendors, one of which is Mitsubishi, which is a very good heat pump vendor. They have multiple quotes in the pipeline. We can't use them, however, because the way that the quoting was was not done through National Grid's suppliers or confirmed vendors like Guardian. And as a result, they wouldn't qualify for the rebates at the level that they would if they did otherwise. So Kristen has that. She's gone to, again, Charlie at Guardian and said, here's what we know about the school. Here's what we're looking to do. Here are some quotes. Here's some, things along those lines. And they are going through and reevaluating the whole project. And it's also going to be pitched to National Grid. So that's kind of it would be great if we got what we applied for. But if we don't, we're set up for fall opening of the grant proposals, the fall grant proposals, with almost a ready-made project. So for the first time, I think, in my memory anyway, we actually have 2 sequential projects that we could go to grants for. Thanks to the work of the school, the school and the team over there did a nice job. They just missed a couple steps to maximize the payback and rebates we get, which is where we can come in. So it was, my memory serves correctly, it was quoted at about $400,000. So
Initially.
With the combination of incentives, rebates, potentially a green community type of grant proposal, we can knock that down quite a bit so that the burden on the taxpayers is a lot less.
The one question I had is initially they sent it out at 400,000, and then they got excited the week before town meeting saying, oh, we got a new bid and it's 300,000. And then like 2 weeks after town meeting, they said, oh, it's now at 420,000.
Yeah.
And I looked it all through, and I said, are you paying on the prevailing wage? When the city or town has to go out for bid, we have to pay prevailing wage. I never got an answer.
No, I never saw an answer for that either. And I think it just goes back to...
And Nancy is no longer at the school.
Okay, yeah, I heard about that. Guardian will sort this. That's what I can say, is they will come back with their own proposal based on the work done by others and the desire of the school. And we know that that'll be prevailing wage. We know that will meet all the requirements.
That it will be compliant.
That'll be fully compliant. So I'm cool with that. We'll let them chew on that and kind of work through the program. So it's kind of a win-win. And it would, getting back to, actually we should talk about that now too, but it's taking a really big step towards electrification, which is going to be a big part. We'll talk about the National Grid Summit that I went to quickly too. I sent you guys an email, but...
Could you speak up just a little bit more?
Sure.
Thank you.
So the electrification piece will be a big win if we can pull it off, because that gets us moving towards carbon neutral.
How much money do they expect the town? See, the school wants it to go through their assessment because that raises their base for their assessment next year.
Yeah.
But next year they wanted a $800,000 roof.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to defer to Kristen on that one, but I can tell you my limited understanding. I know that prior to town meeting, part of the reason why and this could be wrong, so
No, that's all right.
I'm doing the best I can. What I understood is that prior to town meeting, the documents that formalize the relationship between the town and the school district, as far as the building and the lease arrangement and that, were finalized, which makes the town of Berlin, for Berlin Memorial School District, the landlord, so to speak, of that building. I believe that capital upgrades associated with that building would be the responsibility of the town of Berlin and not the consolidated school district. That's my understanding. If that's the case, that means that it would be in the Energy Committee's purview It would be in Kristen and the select board's
In
purview
capital planning,
and capital planning.
they get upset when they get left out.
and finance and all of our
All
friends
the
and
cast of
neighbors,
thousands.
our
All the
friends and
people.
neighbors, to assess both the roof as well as the work we're doing. Now, we're going to, if we come in and do the electrification thing through Guardian, and we are successfully able to advocate for a green community grant, we will be coming into capital planning with a whole bunch of rebates, a whole bunch of potentially grant opportunities to take that total cost of the program down. So it'll be very advantageous. If we are not involved and we're not able to do that, and that would make, in my thoughts, the overall program cost a lot more expensive. So I'm hoping that at least that portion of it comes to us, and it would not be reflected on the
In the assessment,
in the assessment, because it would be the town of Berlin
taking care of their
taking
property.
care of their property.
Only if it's spelled out in the agreement.
Correct. So I don't know what's in that agreement, but that is the limited understanding I have. So it's definitely something we need to talk to Kristen about, because that's huge. Because you're right, we don't want to get into the same bind that caused so much anger at the last town meeting, through
I-
misunderstanding.
I have one lady who filed her nomination papers today for the school committee.
Yeah. It's gonna be, this is not, we have not seen the end of this. This will be playing out for, I think, several months. But from our perspective, being apolitical about it, I just wanna make sure that we're both.
I just want it done.
I want it done. And I totally understand. We've known for years that one wing that's really exposed to the sun fries when it's warm outside. They need proper air conditioning in there, and I'm all for it. I just want to make sure that we maximize our
I want to
opportunities.
do it I want to get a quality product at the most advantageous
Correct.
price for the town. Otherwise, the town won't go for it.
And it's our responsibility, as members of the larger government, to do that. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think we can.
I'll stand right with you.
I really like the choice. I mean, I'm not super partial to one heat pump over the other, but Mitsubishi is one of the major industry players.
That's what I had installed.
Exactly. They're very strong here in New England. They have a local presence.
Yeah, he lives down on Bailey Road. Laz Mechanical.
There you go. The installers are local. So we've got it's.
Yeah,
well
well,
known.
you'd have to go out. I don't know if he is authorized on National Grid for that size of project.
Correct.
But I just figure if push comes to shove, it's nice to have somebody local who can get parts,
Yeah.
who can speak the language, and has a vested interest in the town.
Exactly. And if it conks out on a cold day right before school starts, we want the ability to react, and we don't want to cancel school or something because the HVAC broke. So I'm excited about the project. It's a good one. It's tailor-made for everything that we talked about in the sustainability conference. It's tailor-made towards working towards both our green community goals as well as climate leader communities, should we adopt that. It's all right down the line. So it's a good program, and I'm personally happy that we're finally there and looking at it for real. On that, and Eloise, I know I just dropped this off, I only grabbed an extra one, but this was from the summit that I went to back in May. I sent you both an email kind of summarizing it, but very worthwhile. I'm glad I went. I learned a lot. One of the things that was very, very obvious is I think I was the only member who was not a professional staff at this thing, and most of them are like sustainability directors, planning assistant planners, staff people. So I think it's clear that we miss out on some opportunities just simply because
We don't know about
we
it.
don't know
Yeah.
about it. Learned a lot. They had a really, really good presentation on heat pumps in general. Key takeaway from me from the engineering part of the discussion was that if you're looking at total greenhouse gas emissions, if you replace, what was it, 30% of your peak load, you take care of 90% of your greenhouse gas emissions, which is huge. So there's this mindset, including with the Commonwealth, that you got to go all the way in. You know, it's true. We want to get to zero fossil fuel use, but in a town of our size, with the constraints that we have,
Every little bit helps.
Every little bit helps, and if we knock down that 30% and wipe out 90% of our emissions, then we can take our time getting towards those diminishing returns of going more and more and more.
Well, some of it is also, you don't take out and replace something that you just put in 5 years ago, but you have to time it, you have to
Yeah.
plan for it.
Why would you pull something out that's perfectly good, that's well within its lifespan?
Yeah,
It's wasteful.
but you have to anticipate the end of their life and make provision for it. Even if there was a special article for it, it might have 2 years left, do a special article so that if it breaks,
I like that.
we got it.
I would love to do that. I'd love to have it, because the air handler here is a great example of, we had identified a couple years prior to its failure that it was
On its, it didn't owe us anything.
It didn't owe us anything. It was too old to die young. So it died, and then we had this emergency thing that we had to kind of marshal, find funds, do all this unnatural acts through Kristen and others to get it done. And ultimately, the decision we made on it probably wouldn't have been perfect for our long-term plan, but
That is correct.
it's
It did the job in the immediate next 5 to 10 years.
And actually, that's another point that I learned, because we were told at one point from Guardian that the air handler was not compatible with a heat pump system for this building.
Oh, okay.
That is not true. I had the opportunity to go talk to a Mitsubishi sales rep, who also sales engineer, really. He did the engineering perception. And actually here's the incentives for building management. This is what we're filing for. I don't know if I have it in here, but it's certainly in the package I sent you via email. Mitsubishi and their competitors have a retrofit option, so they can go up there
And make it work.
and make it work. He looked at me and said, that is completely untrue. I don't even remotely worry about that, especially if it's new, because if they're complying with industry standards, we can make it work. So that was really welcome news. I was happy about that. So that kind of puts this building back on the table,
Mm-hmm.
which I was excited
Right.
about. So that was fantastic. The other thing that I got out of there, and I won't rehash the whole email I sent you guys, but the sustainability, no, not sustainability, what is it called? The meeting is tomorrow. The climate services, basically, National Grid has a group of people within their organization that does nothing but work with towns. And specifically, they work with towns to put together long-term plans on how to get from point A to point B.
Wow.
How
How do
to
we
pri-
get in there?
Well, you're welcome to attend tomorrow at 10 a.m.
I don't have a working vehicle.
Oh, that's all right. It's Zoom.
I was gonna say, it's,
Oh.
So
What's the email?
I will send it. Actually,
Microsoft Teams, actually.
Microsoft Teams. That's correct.
Yeah.
I just sent this to you. Where is it?
Can't be far.
Can't be far. So anyway, the moral of the story, I'll get that to you. If you don't,
Yeah, because tomorrow, for some reason, I don't have cybersecurity training at 10 a.m.
woohoo!
Well, there you go. Now
That's
you
perfect.
have that
So-
you can do.
It must be comma.
I'm saying. And it's really, I'm really excited about this, because it is exactly what we need. It is so what we need. They offer engineering support services. They will serve effectively as like an ombudsman for us. If you have a resident of the town of Berlin who's having a trouble paying their bills or getting help from National Grid, they will meet with that person. They are an escalation point. They will come into the town if we have a community gathering or something like that.
I would like them to meet with when the seniors come.
Right.
Or even if, have a small luncheon, 19 Carter, because like I know Linda Nelson,
Yep.
her furnace is 30 years old.
Exactly.
She cries because her husband knows the system, but when something happens to him,
She's in
Yep.
trouble.
yeah, and she's 80, 81.
That's exactly the kind of things that they wanted.
The same thing with Trudy Turbo.
Yep.
I've tried to talk her into getting a Mass Save audit. But
This-
she's in the early stages of dementia and she doesn't remember.
Yep. Yep. That's exactly the. There's so much of that. I mean, looking from. All right, I'll start from a selfish perspective. From the Energy Committee standpoint, I am super excited.
Are we being taped?
We are.
I shouldn't have said their names out loud.
Well, we'll ask Brittany if she can take care of that. But the prioritization, they will look at all of our projects, all of our infrastructure, and say, do this one first, second, third, fourth. That is something we can just hand to capital planning and say, this isn't us telling you this.
Right.
This is a neutral third party. And when they go through the prioritization, they will tell us these are the rebates and incentives that you can expect to gain
Yeah.
from each one of those. So we can do an ROI on it. We can do how much. So that is a huge burden off our plate. Okay. The engineering services, they will look at things like the school and say, now you're over designing it, you're under designing it, you didn't take this into account, you need to, did you think about
this
doing
part.
about this, did you put the right controls on there, well, maybe you should do that. So you can't trust National Grid entirely, because they are a corporation, they're looking to incent us to do things.
Yeah, well,
However,
they have to meet certain standards
They do.
themselves.
They do.
And since I don't have any technical background, I can turn on the radio, but,
Yeah.
you know, and it's their money, so they want to be able to the state, see, we've done this, this, and this at a minimal cost, and yet, get off our backs.
Yeah, exactly. And when you have Guardian, DOER through Kelly, ourselves, plus National Grid, those are multiple viewpoints, and somebody's going to catch something that is fishy. It's just going to happen. So that's super. Other aspects, for like the Mass Save, like we were talking about, they will come in, they will generate interest in that thing. And many other things. So I'm really happy that we got on their agenda,
On their radar.
on the radar. I'll give you an example of how it has already it's already worked, if I can find it here. So Amanda Formica is one of the women who works in this particular division of National Grid, and she'll be meeting with us tomorrow. Just read a quick thing from, and you guys were on this, but they alerted us to an EECBG, so that the Energy Efficiency Community Block Grant. I had seen it, but I looked at it and I'm kind of like, that may be more than we can tie on. It might be more than we can, because when I read it, it was more focused on generating interest in the community itself towards things like mass save and sustainability. I'm like, I would love to do that. Maybe if you guys have an interest in that, want to take that on, knock your socks off, I would love to see it happen. I can't right now, but it's our next step. Besides just taking care of the town, the point in the summit that they had was that the emissions and the energy consumption of a community is not, the majority of it is not coming from town operations. It's coming from the residents. And you can make your town operations
As lean as
as
possible.
lean as possible, as beautiful as can
But
be.
if you don't
But if
change the whole,
the whole climate,
yeah.
the whole community, you're only going to be addressing a very small fraction of the overall opportunity. So,
But, see, part of that is when we get factual information, you have to put it up on the town's website,
correct.
because that just people, oh, yeah, there it is, you know what I mean? If you don't tell them, I'm still waiting for the facility study to be posted on the town's website. It's public knowledge.
Well, I've been posting everything I can on our webpage anyway. So anything that's been coming to me has been going up. That one I haven't received permission to post, but I'll ask. Because
I just post it. I just don't know how, because I am a voter too.
all right, I know how, and I got them. So I'm more than willing to put that information out there. They're draft form, but I never saw a final form. So
Yeah, I couldn't find it.
No, because we got caught up with town meeting and then the school budgets. I'm not throwing stones at anybody.
it's just, yeah, it's time. It needs to
Stuff
go.
happens.
It has, you can't say people are apathetic if you don't give them the information. You can say, this is the information, I'm not gonna talk about it for another 2 months.
Yeah.
But before, all of the people here were town officers. And they would go home and they'd talk about it to their families, their
Right.
friends but now everybody's from out of town. So they might talk about it to their family and friends, but they don't live here.
Well, we know
They
this-
don't vote.
We know this from voting, our other job. There are tons of people whose only interaction with this building is when they either mail their ballot here or they come to vote here. And that's once, maybe every 2 years. So there's a whole lot of people that, and I see our adder funds as being a tool in that toolbox to get the word out about these things. That's allowable. We could market the aggregation.
Yep.
We could, put a thing in and say,
How
hey,
are we standing on that?
still collecting. And I'm going to, I know I owe the select board an answer on that. I'm just going to recommend that we keep it with your guys. You're nodding your head, but I
Yeah.
think everybody agrees that there's too much potential use. One of the items I worked this with Kristen. I got it on CMRPC's agenda, but they were seeking projects and how they could help their member communities. And I asked for a shared sustainability manager or a planner or something like that, who we could
Utilize our funds for that,
Yeah.
towards that person.
It's a salary. I confirmed it again
Yep.
with them. Is that
Have
the
you talked to
intent?
Timothy?
I haven't talked to Timothy, but I talked to Kristen and I talked to CMRPC directly. And
Yeah, but
I can talk to
He's
him.
been at CMRCP for like 25 years.
Yeah. Well, they actually said, I floated it to Kristen. Kristen floated it to CMRPC, so we did the whole chain of command thing. And they were like, this is a wonderful idea. We're absolutely going to put that on our roadmap as one of the things. So I'm just letting that cook right now. I could certainly, actually, it's probably smart to talk with Tim, to have him give a little nudge.
Well, just to be aware that we're nudging.
We're nudging, but it's on their radar, which for now I thought was a win. That was good. That it's on their overall planning as they look towards how to support their communities through.
Well, that's what had to happen for the housing,
Correct.
because the stuff that they wanted, what HUD wanted us to do, it was beyond our bandwidth.
Yeah.
And you need professional people in there. And you need people who can get somebody who's qualified faster than we can even get it posted.
Exactly, right. So we need that, that was, like I said, I started the whole conversation off about when I was in the summit, I'm looking around at all these professionals, and I was talking to a very nice woman from Concord, and Carlisle, and believe it or not, Carlisle and Berlin actually share a lot of the same problems, which was kind of shocking to me, given
Wow.
the nature of the two communities. But it was still very obvious to me that me being there was great, but having someone whose purpose and who's paid for this and has the connections and has built up this
The knowledge
the
and
knowledge and the
networks.
networks of not
See,
minded.
that's what I used to do when I first became a selectman.
Exactly. Well, that's the role, right? That's the
Well,
gig.
Yeah, Bill Lowe was busy running the store. Bill Wheeler was busy running the farm, so I was just, I think that would be valuable. I think that would be valuable.
Exactly.
And I would at least bring it back the information. They were interested, but they didn't have the bandwidth to,
Right. Yep. And I am of the firm belief personally, Berlin should never lead. We should be following others to see what works, what doesn't. I do not want to be
direction to
a trailblazer in these wildly complicated areas. I would much rather let some of the more well-staffed, more capable communities go out there. Not to say that we're not capable. I'm just saying that
they have more employees.
they have more
We don't.
employees, they have more potentially budget to throw at this. It's just let them work out the bugs,
Yep.
and then we learn from them, and then we do what they do. And that's my mantra with all this stuff. I don't want to mess with being first out of the blocks on some of this. But getting back to this quickly, she identified in her email that there were two things that we hadn't thought of that we probably would qualify for these block grants, because they're targeted specifically at small communities of less than 5,000 people, which is us. And it was $75,000 for building envelope projects. I'm sure we can come up with some kind of weather sealing, especially based off the reports that Veritas did. We know that there's a need there. And this was the one that, again, you're probably getting a sense that I'm geeking out on some of this, but $50,000 for planning. What can those planning dollars be used for? Clean energy planning. So it could either be for your community or project-based. Clean energy community campaigns. That's reaching out to our citizens to say, hey, you may want to consider doing a heat pump. And this was the one that I was really, really stoked about.
He's really excited now.
Really excited. Energy Manager Seed Funds. So you can also partner with another town to propose to share an energy manager and apply together for $100,000. So that ties into what we talked about with CMRPC.
Yep.
There's the
First
seed funds that are
ability
associated.
consultant.
We have our own potential adder funds. So we actually have, for one of the few times that I've been on this board, resources that we can use
Possibly do something.
to do something like that, which is really cool. And then the last one, another huge need for us, especially when we're looking towards shovel-ready projects, engineering and design for building decarbonization. So you could potentially hire an engineer to, I don't know, maybe not look at this place because we've studied this one pretty good, but maybe a library, or maybe 1870, or one of our other, maybe the town barn. I don't know, but you could potentially multiply the things that we're doing by
what did you call that, just so I get the minutes right?
engineering and design for building decarbonization. And there's a parentheses on that, but must take advantage of utility incentives. And I look at that as, why wouldn't we? Right? That's literally
Yep.
why we have that little line item on our bills, is to take advantage of that. So she's going to put that on the table tomorrow. So already, we haven't even met with this person yet, and she's already
Looking
looking
for things.
for us. So the ultimate goal of having this partnership with National Grid is to build a pipeline of projects that are just all stacked up,
Ready to go.
prioritized, incentivized, all worked out, and then when we go to DOER, they have this last one, we had a meeting. First thing Kelly Green does is she calls up Sean, she calls up, all these, our guardian people, and she's probing, has Berlin done their homework? And sometimes in this last one, she probed and it went in pretty far. There were some areas that we were a little sloppy on, which Charlie needed to address, and he did. But if we do this using our partners like this, my hope is one of these projects that we have stacked up, Sean's going to go, oh yeah, I talked about that one a year ago. I know everything there is to know about that.
The other thing is,
Which go
once
away.
we get an idea of the prioritization, send it to Kelly.
There is nothing saying that we can't put the prioritization on our webpage, send it to Kelly, send it to anybody who wants to know, saying this is what we want to do based on the best knowledge that we have. And the more we talk about it,
At this point in time, this is what it looks like.
and the nice thing is if we do have this long-term partnership, they can revise it, as we learn more.
Yeah.
We say, well, that project just doesn't work anymore. It doesn't
Or
make sense.
this has come out and it's better.
Or
I mean, it is
there's
what
a
it
huge
is.
incentive to do this. This was
Right
number
now.
10 on your list.
Yeah.
Maybe this should be number 1. Me, I think all of us we just don't have the visibility and skills to be able to do that.
No.
And working with them also, they're working with other communities. So they're going to look and say, I don't know, Wareham. Wareham did this. It was wildly successful. They got this, this, and this. You have the exact same problem. You should try this.
Right.
Okay.
This worked here.
This worked here. Let's go there. Back to the never lead, always follow mindset. There, with all the communities in Massachusetts and the green communities now, there's over 300 of them. Somebody's going to have an idea that applies to us. Somebody will have done something that applies to us.
I have no shame in that respect.
Absolutely, I agree 100%. So I'm not proud. I will beg, borrow, and steal.
We're along something, streetlights.
Yes.
We've got the truck.
Mhm.
How is that going?
I don't know. I don't know if we've had one fail yet. And that was part of the goal.
I was gonna say, I think we had 2, but they broke, like literally, I can't remember,
Burst,
perhaps
yeah.
something chewed into something, and, so our 2 that we had as
Spares?
spares have been used.
Okay.
But yeah, beyond that, they've all,
That was the
Do
Right.
you
goal.
see that since they were installed, that they have saved money?
huge. Huge. Yeah, we're under $200. Usually a lot under 200 a month for all the streetlights.
Mhm.
So,
You can see it in our annual report too. I mean, that was never a huge line item. I think we have 65, 70 street lamps total in the town. So it wasn't like it was a huge amount, but
but
you
it's
know.
nice now that at the end of the year, June's going, okay, so where are we? Is everything, are we gonna go over? Are we? And I'm like, nope, we are good.
Yeah. And having a little bit extra.
We have that little buffer in case we need it to get any.
Yeah.
any
Well,
of
they
the-
should get some replacements
we
if they've
need.
used to.
Right.
Yeah. That would be, I guess, something we need to talk to
Yeah.
Fred about and say, in your budget, are you allocating spare replacement? Because someday one's going to break and you're going to need it.
We've paid for anything that's happened so far
Okay.
out of the streetlight account.
Oh, cool. So getting back to the excess, that is actually being driven right back into, I don't want to say the product, the thing, that whatever broke,
Yeah.
we can repair it.
Yes.
That's really, that's kind of one of those virtuous cycles that you got going on there, that you underrun it, and when something goes wrong, you have the ability to correct it immediately. Because that's one of the things from the original street lamps. when we changed them out, the only complaints we got were from people that said, "You put up this new street lamp across from my house."
It's too bright.
And the answer was, that street lamp has always been there, but it's been burned out for 10 years, and we actually just replaced it. So there you have it. But
Well, sometimes if we meet with Eric, doesn't he have the authority to lower them or raise the lights in the center of town?
I believe so.
You
We
know,
put-
does that work?
The dimulators were in place. I don't know if we did the wireless version of it, but with the bucket truck, we can go up there and you can just turn a switch or a dial. It's just set to whatever it's set to, and we can modify it however they
Yeah,
choose.
and I haven't heard any complaints lately. That was pretty much I'd say the first year.
Yeah, they're good. I mean, they're doing their job, and they were not obnoxious at all. I was happy with how that turned out.
Okay.
So that's what I know. Like I said, I think I was clear that I'm pretty. I pushed Kristen hard to set up this meeting because I thought it was just way too important for us to get in there. Even if, and the other part of it is they function a little bit like a coach, by having
Kind of giving you steps.
every few months they check in with you. It brings to top of mind for us and Kristen and the select board and whoever wishes to attend these things. Oh, we've got that meeting coming up. We probably should do these
Yeah.
action items, or we should do.
What
whatever
about
else.
vehicles? Or they don't touch vehicles?
We have our report now. So I forgot about that. That was, remember we did the fleet assessment?
Mm-hmm.
They actually did it, and they completed the fleet assessment, and we now have a prioritized list of vehicles to be replaced, and with a model equivalent.
Have we
Appropriate.
shared that with the police chief and the fire chief and?
I think so. Kristen shared it out. I don't know if it went to her directs. I can find out, but I know it exists. I
Once
haven't-
again, that should just be on the town's
It's
website.
it's on ours because I posted it.
What is our website?
So we have a page on the town website, the Town of Berlin.
Yeah, we have our own
We have our own
energy.
section, the Energy Committee does, and I have been dutifully posting information up there.
Okay.
So take a
Well, if
peek.
I can find it, anybody can find
Yeah.
it.
So that was one of the things that was posted up there.
Yeah.
And yes, to answer, I think the question you actually asked, do they do the vehicle thing? Absolutely. That's part of their domain. That we're actually working.
So that
with-
would work into the prioritization.
Exactly. That's actually their team does that assessment. So we unknowingly already worked with them, but we didn't tap into the other services that they offered.
Okay. Well, I just think that should be shared specifically with capital planning because they need time to think about it.
I can do that. I can send that to Anna.
You know, some of these things, they hit you with an avalanche of information. And hurry up, what's the answer? You know, what goes good?
We need to close the budget, or we need to put the town meeting warrant
Yeah,
together in a
it's,
week.
it's going to print tomorrow.
Yeah. All that happens. And there's actually, I think, in here some of the stuff too, but I'll leave this with you. I have a copy.
So what time is this meeting tomorrow?
10 a.m., right during your non-existent cybersecurity training.
Okay, so
Let me do that
it's
right now.
7/3/2024.
Let me do that right now. Sent to accounting, forward to Eloise. Do you want it on your town one?
Yeah,
Town clerk. Okay. You should have it. So,
Ta-da.
ta-da. That's what I've been working on since we last spoke.
you've done a lot. Me, I am a slug.
It's okay. It's summertime. But it's good stuff. It's good stuff. I think, like I said, going to this helped me a lot. I was glad I did it. I'll probably do it again next year. The other thing that they gave was, like, DOER was they were sitting at the table across from me. You know, they got up and said, "Hey, folks, this is where this program is going. This is what we're doing next. This is what, you know, climate leaders community is going to look like." That's another thing that the National Grid will help us with. Is one of the requirements of climate leaders is the decarbonization plan. They will help us do that. They will basically not author it, but they will
Hold your hand.
hold your hand through it and
Yeah.
get you to the point where your plan will be acceptable to DOER.
Well, they know these people. They know the
Right.
code words that you're
Of course.
looking for.
And they're gonna pick up the phone and they're gonna talk to them and say, "Yeah, Berlin's one of our communities. We worked with them. Here's what we know." So
Do they talk about the radios, police radios, telecommunications, that end?
no, that's outside their scope. Though Anna did come to me and talked about that from capital planning, that she cornered me at town meeting that she wanted to chat, so I need to follow up with her on that too. So that'll be good. So I'll call Anna and talk about that, and I'll send her the vehicle stuff. That'll give me a reason to put that on her radar. As well, I should also, if she doesn't have the proposal from the school, I should make sure she has that too. Because that's coming. That's going to happen in some fashion within probably the next 2 years. I just don't know when. I don't know what form it's going to take, but something is going to happen over there soon.
Well, I was talking to Kristen briefly, probably about a month and a half ago, and Verizon's always looking to put towers on the highest hill in any city or town. They approached conservation because they have Ball Hill. Conservation said no. But there, I believe, is another parcel in between Captiva Road and Ball Hill, not the corner lot, but I think the next lot is town property,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not conservation.
So they want to build the tower?
Huh?
They want to build the tower?
Yeah. Well, I just think that if we had a tower up there, this is going back to when I was a selectman a million years ago, there are dead spots in Berlin.
Uh-huh.
And if you have it up high enough, it will meet those.
Oh,
Oh, no.
I shut the lights off. Did we go? a whole
Okay,
hour?
that's it. Meeting adjourned.
Done.
I guess that's my. Anyway, that actually pretty much is the last of what I had.
Be-
Anything else?
Because Boylston got they voted, I think, 1.2 or 1.5 million dollars to improve their transmission in their town, because they had a similar problem.
Mm-hmm.
But would it work?
Sure. I mean, I have to be a little bit careful here because this is my professional capacity and Verizon is a competitor of
No,
ours.
this is as an
However,
individual.
Yeah, as a,
I mean, okay, I know nothing about it.
I have cited cell phone towers for almost 30 years. This is what I do for a living.
But if you put them up high enough, won't they go further?
Yes, asterisk. The way that it works is radio signals are line of sight, meaning what you see is what you get.
Correct. I had that conversation with the town of Brookline.
So if you place a tower on a hill and say you do a 180 footer, which would be really large for this community, but let's pretend.
But if it's the most central area,
Well, there's a tree up on Coburn Road, right? That's on a pretty good sized hill. I can see it right across from my house. Sorry, I'm using
that's Coburn Road.
I'm using slang. A tower that is camouflaged to look like a tree. Okay.
And there's one done on Taylor
There's
Road.
one down on Taylor as well. That one is not a tree tower. It's just a straight up monopole. But where the land gets lumpy, if you go around a hill and you're blocked from that is an
Now
area
you're-
that drops out.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things that companies like AT&T, who I work for, like Verizon, like T-Mobile, they are always evaluating how to cover those areas. In New England being, especially central Mass, being pretty
Hilly.
hilly, with a lot of trees, which also absorb radio energy, that's a real challenge. Factor in that zoning map, factor in that community opposition, if it's not cited well, all of those things.
Well, I mean, this parcel that I'm thinking of, it's adjacent to conservation land, so it's not like it's gonna be in my backyard. Although I wouldn't care, they could put it in my backyard.
Yes, people get
Spastic, I think is the word you're looking for.
From 1996 to 2000, I did zoning hearings of cell towers. That was my primary job responsibility. I have been to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, not even being facetious, usually 3 times a week for about 6 years. And we're off our subject, but what community people react to is the aesthetics of it, breaking up the skyline, breaking up their view.
Well, I thought about that, but I think this is far back enough that although it has the height, it's not as tall as the tallest thing. But it might be shorter by 10 feet or so. But it's back enough that I don't think it would be blaring.
Berlin wasn't my area. I was just north of here, actually. But here are the tricks that you do if you're a RAN engineer and you want to mitigate the impact of doing this. You bury your tower in trees, meaning you do your setbacks so if you have lots of trees between you and the closest abutter, that's great. Cuts down noise, cuts down unsightliness. All they see is the top above the tree. That just generally works. You can do camouflage with paint. You can, personally, I think galvanized steel works the best, but others, like a darker color or whatever. Because there's other considerations too. There's potentially a generator there because like the police department, they're gonna want this communication to work all the time. And you have these radio systems put out a lot of heat, so they got usually a primary and a backup major air conditioning unit on the back of them, which can be pretty noisy. So all that stuff gets involved. So if the property has a lot of land, if the property has the ability to put the towers somewhere where other people are not, that's a good thing.
How far away would you have to be?
It depends on the zoning bylaws, but I don't remember Berlin's, and it's probably changed for all I know. But we typically in Eastern Mass, setbacks were between 1 and 2 times the tower height.
Yeah, so if it fell, it wouldn't fall on
But
somebody's
almost
house.
always 100%, so the length minimum. Some communities elected to do 2 times, which I always kind of went, what's it going to do? It's going to fall and then it's going to flip over again. But it's more a way to
Say no politely.
and isolate it. I mean, I understand what they're going after, but that's the gist of it. Like I said, I could probably talk to Patty. She's just down the street and say, what's the zoning bylaws for Berlin for towers? But that's typical, would be the height of the tower back from the property lines, typically. So if you're putting up a 200-foot tower, you need a pretty big chunk of land to do that. Normal in this part of the world, it's odd to be over 150, and typical is between 100 and 120.
Well, if I ruled the world, I would put it right on the edge, knowing that if it's gonna fall on conservation land, which is, I'm not putting down conservation, but people like the services. I just think it was always a problem I had when I was a selectman, because it was very hard to.
Well, you would have been, when were you on the select board?
From 86 to 92.
So 92, so you left the select board just when things were starting to get crazy in the wireless space. Because from 94, the Telecom Act of 1996 was when things just went bonkers. And everybody, that's when we had this massive build out. And that's why I was in zoning hearings for 3 days a week. Anyway, I don't know if there's a lot more we could talk about that, but no, I guess the key takeaway is there's always large setbacks. Any developer has to do NEPA, which is the National Environmental Protection Act. So that does a historic assessment. It does a
So I should
conservation-
take my teepee down?
You should. Actually, believe it or not, I'll give you a story from just north of here in Littleton. We were building a tower, this is back in the day, and there were, I think the only way to describe it would be fossilized wagon ruts in the road that we were doing. The local historic commission deemed those of interest, and we had to go through extreme lengths to protect them. So we had hay bales all around them, we had it all flagged, we had a do not disturb
Don't
zone around
touch.
it, don't touch. But anything like that, the church downtown is probably on the National Registry of Historic Places, and there's.
Well, I believe they have a repeater in First Parish Church.
Oh, they might. I don't know. I could.
I'm pretty sure, because Barry, of course, is
incensed.
no. And the other person that used to call me on a regular basis was, she moved to Alaska to be with her son.
Oh, yeah. I know who you're talking about. I can see her face. She was actually just back in town about a month ago. Shoot. Anyway, should we close the meeting?
Sure.
Well, is there anything else? I was just wondering, because it's operating 24/7, how energy efficient is that?
Truthfully, not very. We've been doing a lot of work on that area because, and I'm saying we, the industry, and I'm speaking specifically from my job, because it costs us a lot of money to run these things.
Right.
So we're very much interested in how can we cool these without necessarily running an air conditioning unit, a big air conditioning unit for hours and hours and
Yeah.
hours. How do we, is there any way we can use solar to offset that? Because they run off of a battery plant. So the way it works is the AC power comes in, it goes into a rectifier unit, and basically you're charging the batteries that are within the site. So that's perfect for solar. There's already batteries there, if it's a DC. But in general, the amount of power that we're consuming, you would need a pretty big solar array to make any difference. We've talked about, just doing a small one, saying, hey, every little bit counts, and so far that hasn't worked out that much.
Well, I was thinking of something in the ground.
But they absolutely, they run 24/7, 365 days a year. Believe it or not, in the wintertime, we are often cooling them because there's that much heat, and that heat
Wow.
comes from the electronics not being perfectly efficient, so it's converting the energy and a lot
Well,
of this.
when I think of the town and energy, that's when I say, well, what's going 24/7? And that
Things like
came
that.
to mind.
Yeah. I can tell you from being an industry insider, it is absolutely on everybody's mind. We have a whole team that works
That's it.
on this, so it's for sure. All right, what time is it?
Okay.
It is 6:32, and I would entertain a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
All those,
Aye.
all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it.